Welcome to Hockey Wiz Talks podcast. Today I'll be doing a preview of the first round of the 2021 NHL Playoffs. In this podcast, I will be breaking down and analyzing the first round matchups in the 2021 NHL Playoffs. Eastern Conference Playoff Preview. The first matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators. Key players for Carolina: Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Teuvo Teravainen, Martin Necas, Jordan Staal, Vincent Trocheck, Dougie Hamilton, Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, Brady Shea, and Jake Bean. Key players for Nashville: Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene, Victor Arvidsson, Eeli Tolvanen, Luke Kunin, Roman Josi, Ryan Ellis, and Matthias Ekholm. The X Factor for Carolina is Steven Lorenz, and the X Factor for Nashville is the Yakov Trenin, Colton Sissons, and Tanner Jeannot line. The goalie matchup in this series is Peter Mrazek and Alex Nedeljkovic for Carolina against UC Saros for Nashville. The Carolina Hurricanes had the best regular season record and is a threat to win the Stanley Cup this year. They will face the Nashville Predators in the first round, which shouldn't be much of a challenge for them, because in the regular season, the Canes were 6-2-0 against the Predators, so they should have the advantage in the series. Carolina has one of the hottest players in the league in Sebastian Aho, who has 7 goals and 19 points in the last month of the season. Jordan Staal, Andrei Svechnikov, and Dougie Hamilton have also been pretty productive in the last month as well. Alex Nedeljkovic and Peter Mrazek are both having terrific seasons, so it is possible for both of them to see playing time in the postseason. UC Saros has been a flat-out beast in the last month of the season, posting a 7-4 record with a 2.49 GAA, a .924 save percentage, and a shutout. No particular skater has stood out for Nashville, but the defense as a whole has played better in the past month, which is why Nashville was able to turn their season around. If all goes right, the Carolina Hurricanes should win this series easily, but if UC Saros plays lights out for Nashville, they might be able to steal a game or two in the series. My prediction is that Carolina wins the series 4-1. Another matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Key players for the Florida Panthers: Alexander Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, Sam Bennett, Carter Verhaeghe, Anthony Duclair, Owen Tippett, and Frank Vetrano. Key defensemen: Keith Yandle, Mackenzie Weegar, Gustav Forsling, and Brandon Montour. Key forwards for the Tampa Bay Lightning: Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Andre Palat, Yanni Gourde, Alex Killorn, Blake Coleman, and Tyler Johnson. Key defensemen: Victor Hedman, Mikhail Sergachev, Ryan McDonough, David Savard, and Eric Cernak. The X Factor in this series: for Florida, Alexander Wenberg, and for Tampa Bay, Ross Colton. The goalie matchup in this series is Sergei Bobrovsky for Florida against Andrei Vasilevskiy for Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Lightning are the defending Stanley Cup champions, but winning back-to-back will be a challenge, especially with their first round matchup. The Florida Panthers own the regular season matchup against the Tampa Bay Lightning, with the Panthers winning 5 of the 8 games. The Florida Panthers have 3 of the hottest forwards in the league, with Jonathan Huberdeau, Alexander Barkov, and Sam Bennett. Mackenzie Weegar has also been terrific for the Panthers in the absence of Aaron Ekblad. Sergei Bobrovsky has struggled in the playoffs in past years. Fortunately for Florida, they have 2 very good goalies in Spencer Knight and Chris Drager to play if he should falter. The Tampa Bay Lightning should be welcoming Nikita Kucherov and Steven Stamkos back to the lineup, so that will bring a much needed boost on offense. Tampa has almost the exact same team that won the Stanley Cup last year, and are adding a few young players like Ross Colton and Alex Barré-Boulet. Andrei Vasilevskiy is going to have to be the reason why the Lightning end up having the edge in this series, because he has a 33-22 record in the postseason with a 2.37 GAA and .918 save percentage. This series is the toughest to predict because the Florida Panthers are a hot team right now, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are the defending Stanley Cup champions. So for that reason, I will have to give the edge to the Lightning in this series. My prediction is that the Tampa Bay Lightning win the series 4-3. And now a word from our sponsor. Check out my scouting blog at hockeywiz77scouting.com. Listen to my scouting blog podcast on anchor.fm/hockeywiz77scouting. The third matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Pittsburgh Penguins and New York Islanders. Key forwards for the Pittsburgh Penguins: Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Jake Gunsel, Brian Rust, Jason Zucker, Kasperi Kapanen, Jared McCann, Jeff Carter. Key defensemen: Chris Letang, John Marino, Brian Dumoulin, and Michael Matheson. Key forwards for the New York Islanders: Matt Barzal, Brock Nelson, Josh Bailey, J.G. Pajot, Jordan Eberle, Casey Cizikas, Cal Clutterbuck. Key defensemen: Nick Leddy, Ryan Pulock, Adam Pelech, and Scott Mayfield. X factors for Pittsburgh: Brandon Tanev, and for the New York Islanders: Oliver Wahlstrom. Goalie matchup in this series: for Pittsburgh, Tristan Jarry, and for the New York Islanders, Semyon Varlamov. The Pittsburgh Penguins own the season series against the New York Islanders and also own them historically in their head-to-head matchups. The Penguins won 6 of their 8 regular season games against the Islanders, including all 4 home games. The Penguins still have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Chris Letang, players that were a part of all 3 championships with the team. Pittsburgh has a nice supporting cast of players, including Jake Guentzel, Brian Rust, Jason Zucker, Kasperi Kapanen, Jeff Carter, and Jared McCann. The defense and Tristan Jarry will need to be more consistent if the Penguins want to win the series. The New York Islanders were one of my dark horses to make a deep playoff run, but since the trade deadline, the Islanders have not played well at all. A huge reason for this is because they acquired Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, which kind of ruined their chemistry in their lineup. Despite their recent struggles, the Islanders will still be a tough team to play against in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Penguins are the better team on paper, but the New York Islanders are a team that always defy the odds. You just never know who will win the series. My prediction is that the Pittsburgh Penguins win the series 4-1. The fourth and final matchup in the Eastern Conference is between the Washington Capitals and Boston Bruins. Key forwards for Washington: Alex Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, TJ Oshie, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Anthony Mantha, Tom Wilson, and Lars Eller. Key defensemen: John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov, Brendan Dillon, Zdeno Chara, and Justin Schultz. Key forwards for Boston: Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak, Taylor Hall, David Krejci, Craig Smith, Charlie Coyle, and Jake DeBrusk. Key defensemen: Charlie McAvoy, Brandon Carlo, Matt Grzelcyk, Jeremy Lauzon, and Jacob Zaboral. X factors in this series: for Washington, Daniel Sprong, and for Boston, Curtis Lazar. For Washington, Ilya Samsonov or Vitek Vanecek against Tuukka Rask for Boston. The Washington Capitals and Boston Bruins are going to be in for a bloodbath stemming from a Tom Wilson hit on Brandon Carlo. There was already some fireworks in the previous regular season games after the hit, so it's only gonna escalate in the playoffs. In the regular season, the Bruins won 4 games, while the Capitals won 3 games, so it's very likely this series could go 7 games. The Boston Bruins already had the perfection line, but with the addition of Taylor Hall and the re-emergence of David Krejci, the Boston Bruins have become a serious threat in the playoffs. The defense is still suspect, but now the Bruins have enough scoring to overcompensate for their defensive woes. Tuukka Rask has proven to be one of the best goalies in the league still. As long as he is healthy, the Bruins have a chance to make a deep run. The Washington Capitals are a prolific offensive team that not only have high-end offensive players, but they can also roll 4 lines, which is important in the playoffs. John Carlson is one of the top defensemen in the league, but if the Capitals want to make a deep run, they will also need Dmitry Orlov and Justin Schultz to play well. The weakness of the Capitals is their goaltending, and it could very well be the reason why the Capitals lose this series. The Capitals-Bruins series will be very intense and will very likely go 7 games. My prediction is that the Boston Bruins win the series 4-3. And now a word from our sponsor. Check out my hockey blog at hockeywiztalkshockey.blogspot.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at hockeywiz777. Western Conference Playoff Preview. The third matchup in the Western Conference is between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. Key forwards for Toronto: Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, William Nylander, Nick Foligno, Alex Kerfoot, and Joe Thornton. Key defensemen: Morgan Rielly, TJ Brody, Jake Muzzin, and Justin Hall. Key forwards for Montreal: Nick Suzuki, Tyler Toffoli, Thomas Tatar, Brendan Gallagher, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Josh Anderson, Cole Caulfield, Philip Deneau, and Corey Perry. Key defensemen: Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie, Joel Edmondson, Alexander Romanov, and Ben Sherratt. X factors for Toronto: Jason Spezza, and for Montreal, the Paul Byron, Jake Evans, and Arturi Lehkonen line. The goalie matchup in this series: for Toronto, Jack Campbell, and for Montreal, Carey Price. The Toronto Maple Leafs are heavy favorites on paper in this series, as they have a 7-3 record against Montreal in 2021. However, it should be noted that Montreal is a very different team in the postseason because they are built for the postseason. The Toronto Maple Leafs are led in scoring by Austin Matthews, who is the leading goal scorer in the league, and Mitch Marner, who leads the team in points. The John Tavares line didn't get as much buzz in the regular season, but if they want to advance, that line will need to play well. The Leafs are by no means a sure bet to win this series because they have suspect defense and goaltending. The Montreal Canadiens, on the other hand, can roll 4 lines and 3 D pairs, so they will always have fresh legs on the ice in comparison to the Leafs' top players. Montreal has some players in their lineup that excel in the playoffs, like Corey Perry, who has 98 points in 145 playoff games, and Nick Suzuki, who had 7 points in 10 playoff games last postseason. Carey Price should be back for the postseason. If the Canadiens are to steal the series, Carey Price will need to be Carey Price. Montreal is the same team that upset Crosby and the Penguins last season, so who is to say that they can't upset the Leafs? My prediction is that Montreal wins the series 4-3. The fourth and final matchup in the Western Conference is between the Edmonton Oilers and Winnipeg Jets. Key forwards for the Edmonton Oilers: Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Kailer Yamamoto, Jesse Puljujarvi, Alex Chiasson, James Neal, Dominic Cahoon, and Ryan McLeod. Key defensemen: Darnell Nurse, Tyson Barrie, Adam Larson, Caleb Jones, and Ethan Bear. Key forwards for the Winnipeg Jets: Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Andrew Kopp, Adam Lowry, Paul Stastny, and Matthew Perreault. Key defensemen: Josh Morrissey, Neil Pionk, Dylan DeMello, and Derek Forbort. The X factor in this series: for Edmonton, Tyler Ennis, and for Winnipeg, Mason Appleton. The goalie matchup in this series: for Edmonton, Mike Smith, and for Winnipeg, Connor Hellebuyck. The Edmonton Oilers have owned the Winnipeg Jets in the season series this year, spotting a 7-2 record against Winnipeg. The Jets fared well in the first 3 games against the Oilers, but in their last 4 games against the Oilers, they were outscored 16-4. The Edmonton Oilers are led by MVP and Art Ross winner Connor McDavid, and the second leading point scorer in the league in Leon Draisaitl. Edmonton will need other players such as Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Kailer Yamamoto, and other role players to step up offensively if they want to win the series. Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie are having tremendous offensive years on the back end. Winnipeg will need to keep an eye on both players when they are on the ice. At 39 years old, Mike Smith has been tremendous in goal and has been the 3rd best Oiler behind McDavid and Draisaitl. The Winnipeg Jets have been in a funk during the last month of the season, but they still have some firepower in the lineup. Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler are both dangerous players who were a crucial part of the Jets team that made the conference finals in 2018. Connor Hellebuyck will need to play like the Vezina Trophy winner from last year and not the goalie from the past month of the season. If Hellebuyck isn't great, this could be a quick series. Given the dominance the Oilers have had over the Winnipeg Jets, I would give the Oilers the advantage in this series. My prediction is that the Oilers win the series 4-1. The Stanley Cup Playoffs is always full of surprises, so it will be interesting to see how this year's playoffs plays out.